What is going on, guys? Rewinds here, and in this video I'm going to be bringing you guys my review for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Manga chapter number 25. I also will be talking in this video a little bit about chapter 24 as well, since I didn't get to post a review for that chapter, so I am going to touch up on that chapter as well a little bit. I think that's how I'm going to kick this video off. Let's talk a little bit about chapter 24 briefly, and then most of the video will be focused on chapter 25. So overall, chapter 24 I felt was a really good chapter, probably a great chapter, I would say. We really got to see Kawaki really show out. Had a cool little flashback at the start, and we had the whole thing too with Kawaki basically putting in a lot of work on Jura, meanwhile buying some time for Boruto to lock in on that object so that they could get away. And honestly, Kawaki showed out a lot. And he dealt some good damage to Jura, but as we saw, Jura regenerated. Honestly, this is going to be one of those fights where the choreography was really nice, so I feel like the anime can do really well with that. And I mean, that in general, I guess you could say, is a thing for the Naruto franchise overall, that choreography is usually pretty good, and the anime usually expands on that pretty nicely, especially when they, have some of their best animation staff on board. But yeah, definitely see some potential for that fight to be pretty good in the anime, Kawaki versus Jura. So they do end up getting away, but I do remember one big thing was, the whole conversation Jura had with Kawaki, pretty much asking, Kawaki about the concept of love, and then, Jura's calling it a weakness, but Kawaki, he doesn't really answer him completely, but he does give him some word back eventually. Ultimately, this chapter does end with Boruto and Kawaki arriving to the symbol. There was a funny scene as well where Kawaki lands on Konohamaru. That was for some comedic effect. That was cool. And the last page was also a funny page as well of chapter 24, where we had Jura and Hidari talking. So honestly, it was a very well-rounded chapter. Great stuff. And that's pretty much what I briefly wanted to touch on with that. Yeah, unfortunately couldn't get a review up for that one, but there's definitely a lot of memorable stuff from that chapter. And there's actually one more thing too. There was also Koji informing Ada that Momoshiki is going to be making a move soon to target her. So that's something that's setting up for near in the future as well, I believe. So look out for that. All in all, great chapter. Kawaki showed out. Jura had his moments. Jura talked about the concept of love. They, Boruto and Kawaki and the others made their getaway. We know that Ada is being targeted now. We even had Sumire and Amado watching through Kawaki. So, overall, very well-rounded chapter, and great for hype. Excited to see it adapted one day. But let's move on to chapter 25. And chapter 25 is titled Those Girls. And it has a Himawari cover with Kid Kurama. The kid-sized Kurama. And a really cool cover. Again, not, it's Ikimoto. Most of the covers are usually pretty good, especially throughout 2 Blue Vortex. So good stuff. Good start there. The chapter kicks off with Konohamaru poking the thorn soul into the tree that's holding Moegi. And Team 10 and Himawari are there too. In this scene, the thorn soul ends up latching onto the tree and then becomes a mark, which then creates smoke coming out of the tree, releasing Moegi, who then ends up falling right into Konohamaru's arms. And Konohamaru then says, Moegi, hey, do you know who I am? And right then she opens her eyes and says, Konohamaru-chan, as if she's puzzled at first that he's holding her and everything, and she's just awoken. Himawari's happy to see that, she recognizes him, and then Konohamaru immediately hugs her tighter, and then she says Konohamaru-chan again with more of a relieving tone. So very wholesome scene right there. And Really cool to see, not only for Konohamaru but also, Team 10 getting their sensei back and Himawari being happy as well. Overall, really good scene, and we have Boruto actually watching everything from above as well. Just in the sky, just looking on, and honestly, that was a good way to resolve that return plot point really quick without taking up too much of the chapter. And I don't know about you guys, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to put this down as a W in Konohamaru's book. This could arguably be said, the Sand arc could arguably be said as one of the best showings he's had in the Boruto series, which it's sad and good at the same time because there's definitely, he's had some moments before in Boruto Naruto Next Generations, but not like a lot, or, even if you compare him to, I guess what like maybe Kakashi would have had in the original, it's kind of hard to compare, but part of it is just because of how strong everybody is now in the verse. So, in Two Blue Vortex, I'm definitely enjoying how his character is written a lot more than in Naruto Next Generation. So, good stuff. Hopefully they keep it going with them. I am a fan of his character, so I do hope that continues on. Now, moving on to the next plot point, we actually see Kankuro communicating with Shikamaru, saying that Shinki's been restored to his normal self and that Gaara is injured but not critically, so he should awaken soon. We do get a little glimpse of Gaara on a hospital bed. What I don't like right now about this, and I do hope they fix this, or, well, not fix this, but expand on this in the next chapter maybe. Or maybe this is just something, I guess, they're just saying, like, hey, we're going to leave it for the anime to expand on. But I would have liked to seen the moment where Shinki was revived, and I feel like it would have been important, because if Yodo is dead, like they're, making it seem like, or were making it seem like at the end of the other couple chapters, what is Shinki's reaction to all of this, and how's Araya feeling right now? That this could be some really good times to show those characters' reactions to that, and even Gaara's when Gaara awakens, like. It would be cool to see his reaction too, especially since Yodo is part of that team. So I feel like that's one of those things that was a missed opportunity this chapter, and I would have liked to seen that in this chapter. Sai then walks into Shikamaru's area, the Hokage room, and then he tells him that the elders are calling him. We then cut over to another scene where Sakura is treating Moegi now in the hospital and says that she doesn't see much issues, but that her chakra flow is now sluggish, likely from the tree feeding off of her. And this is a good point, because this does tell us that most likely the people that are being consumed by the tree can come back, and they'll just have some issues when they first come back, but eventually they can work their way back up. But it sounds like the tree feeds off their chakra, so that gets me thinking about Sasuke, because Sasuke's been a tree for a while now. They're probably gonna let Sasuke out, and Sasuke might just straight collapse if we get to that point, and might be in worse condition than Moegi simply because he's been a tree longer. Let me know what you guys think of that. Sarada and Sumire then make eye contact across the room, and Sakura is telling Moegi to just eat and rest plenty. Moegi says sorry to make everyone worry, and she thanks Konohamaru again, and Konohamaru just tells her to get well quick. Sarada then asks Sumire to talk, which I feel like this is a necessary convo and is something that I saw as coming, because we had that other chapter with the whole Sumire and Sarada thing. So this makes perfect sense to me why this chat's happening, and I don't think they dragged it too long either. So I feel like it was definitely good that they addressed it. This does bring me to another point, though. This is like one of the times where we had Sarada and Sakura pretty close to each other in the manga. We haven't really seen that in a while, and we don't really see Sakura, to be honest, much at all in the Boruto mangas. But I want to see a conversation about them talking about Sasuke, and it can be done in a flashback format, or it can be done how they are now, but I feel like it's a convo that needs to happen. So I hope Ikimoto gets on top of that at some point soon, because this felt like a missed opportunity to me to get that, going as well. And I don't want that to be like some anime only thing. I feel like it's significant enough that we should be getting it in the manga in a chapter, and should be, at least a couple pages, like 5 to 10 pages of them talking about it, because um, you know, Sakura is an important character here. I mean, she's the mother of Sarada, and she could definitely be more involved in the story, and she's Sasuke's wife as well. I feel like she's been very minimally involved compared to what I guess it could be, especially considering that Sasuke has gone rogue in a lot of, people's eyes. So, just something I want them to address at some point. So, Sarada and Sumire have this talk outside. There's a moment of silence, and Sumire then tells her, "Good job on your mission." They both then proceed to try to say something, and Sarada actually ends up calling her Sumire now. They both then end up apologizing to each other for a lot of things. I also do want to say that Ada was watching all of this as it's happening. Sarada then says what Sumire says is true, and she calls herself a coward. And Sarada ends up saying that when Sumire asked her years back, she wasn't interested in Boruto, but at some point she realized that she was thinking about him more and more. She was confused about her feelings because um, she was wondering if she was worried about him just as a teammate or as something more initially. But obsessing over those thoughts made her feel like a loser, apparently, and made her question if she felt worthy of becoming Hokage. Sarda then declares that she's decided to stop running, and she then ends up saying, "I also like Boruto." And that's something that they emphasize. Like Ikimoto emphasized the importance of that scene by making it a one-page thing where that's like the only panel. And I feel like that was a good effect by him because, I mean, clearly that's a big thing to be declaring and a big thing to be going on, even though, us as the readers, I feel like most of us knew that already, but her to actually say it now is another big step. So Sumire is just looking at her as she said that, and Ada is watching it in shock. Um, Sarada says her new feelings are wanting to help him, and doing that will only make her stronger to become Hokage. Sumire says she knew all along, like long ago, that how Sarada felt about Boruto and that it was pretty obvious. And then Sarada says, "Right back at you." Sumire then thanks her for telling her directly and pretty much says that from this point on she won't hold back anymore. Sarada says, "Right back at you." So, and meanwhile, Ada's just mad, watching this. She's like, "How dare you guys have this conversation without me being there?" And then she calls the censor unit to say, "Connect me to those girls." And that's how we connect to the title. So, honestly, makes sense, and everything, was smooth, connected well. And this was like a 10-page thing in a chapter. I didn't feel like it took too long, and it, put them back on good terms, and it led to Sarada's declaration. So, good stuff. We then cut over to probably what I'd say is one of my favorite parts of the chapter. We have Himawari in the Uzumaki household, and she's shown meditating or like in a meditation stance, but she's like training with Kurama in her mind, and Kurama is winning, and he tells her basically to accomplish more through chakra control. Kurama says that she doesn't understand a thing right now, and that she's different from an ordinary shinobi, and that she's a little different at the same time though from Jinchuriki. He basically says you are human, but yet you're more close to himself and Jura. And this is, I feel like, being said more to have her adapt a certain type of fighting style. That's what Kurama was hinting at. So that's kind of where I think that's being more referred to rather than her, not being human or something like that. Um, he then says to think of herself as a personification of chakra in human form. He then also tells her that he's tired and that he's done for the day. Himawari did want to talk to him more, but then, Kurama basically cut her off. And then Himawari awakens. Man, I can't tell you guys how happy I am to see Kurama back, though. I know that some people don't like it when, a character is killed off and then returns, but I feel like this is something that's already been established, in the lore a long time ago with the tail beast coming back. And in general too, they explained it pretty well. For now, with like everything going on, I'm sure we're going to continue getting more explanations later, but Himawari's, a good person to have Kurama right now, so I definitely do like this overall, that he's back, and it's pretty cool that he's training her. Really, really cool stuff. Now we head to probably the most intense part of the chapter, and probably the one that caught the most eye of like people online or in general, and that is Boruto's pretty much sitting on the roof of the house right now, which also cool little thing right there, just watching over his sister. He then closes his eyes and seeks out Momoshiki. Momoshiki is laying down bored and asks what's caused Boruto to seek him out. Momoshiki says, Boruto says, why are you sulking and you're just a freeloader? And then Momoshiki responds by saying he's sulking because Boruto has failed to die again. He says he should have left things to be the day Kawaki killed him, and now that he can't take over his mind either, the only thing his soul desires is to be free of this curse through death and become nothing. So, that's what 3 years of nothing, I guess, will do to you. Momoshiki's plan went to crap, and he's just basically stuck there watching through Boruto now. Boruto then asks a big request, if Momoshiki would be willing to lend him a hand. Momoshiki immediately told him to be gone, but Boruto tells him to hear him out and that he'll be compensated. Boruto says, if we're able to take Jura down, I'll give you my body and you'll have everything you want. Momoshiki's eyes kind of seem intrigued by this, but we don't get more of that conversation. The final page actually ends up being Sumire and Sarada saying Boruto hasn't picked up on their crushes of him yet, but that's basically what Sarada says makes him so endearing. Overall, again, really, really good chapter. Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, no misses. We're 25 for 25 now, and I feel like we can keep it going. I'm excited to see what's to come in Boruto next month in chapter 26. We might be heading towards a new arc, which is exciting stuff, and I might make a video on that too to see, go over like a couple ideas of what we could possibly be heading towards. So that might be something I do. But in general, this chapter, like I said, really good chapter. I'm going to give it an 8 to 8.5 out of 10. Not as good to me as chapter 24, but this chapter did a lot. Quick rundown is we had the whole Moegi thing resolved. We had a touching moment right there pretty much, especially between Konohamaru and Moegi. And, we also got to see Team 10 and Himawari happy. We got to see a Sakura cameo, which was cool. We got to see the Sarada and Sumire conversation happen, and Sarada do her big declaration, and then Sumire pretty much saying right back at you that I'm also going to, try to get at Boruto. And then we had Himawari and Kurama training, and, a little bit more expansion of like what Himawari needs to learn. And then we had this Boruto and Momoshiki conversation as well, where Boruto makes quite the crazy request. Because, if Momoshiki actually takes over Boruto's body after they take out Jura, maybe Boruto's banking on Kawaki to stop Momoshiki. But can Kawaki really do that at his current strength? Even if you argue that Kawaki's as strong as Boruto now, or a little weaker, or like a little stronger, whichever way you want to go with it, can he really take down Momoshiki running Boruto's body, though? That, I feel like, is a big question. And honestly, it gives us a lot to discuss. So it should be exciting stuff the next couple months, and I'm excited to see where things head. Next month's chapter, I'm sure we'll get more continuation of that conversation, at least, of Boruto and Momoshiki. That should be cool. And I feel like it would make sense if next chapter they also touch up on some of like the stuff that I was saying I wish they did this chapter, such as showing, Shinki's reaction to Yodo's death, or maybe if they did a fake out death, are they going to show Yodo? I don't know exactly what's going to happen for sure, but I do feel like they should address a little bit more from the sand side of things and show us those characters, even if it's for a couple pages in next month's chapter. Another thing, and I'm not docking points off the chapter like a lot for this, but I would really have liked if this chapter they had touched up on a Sarada and Sakura conversation, even if it was just a little bit. But we need that Sarada and Sakura conversation about Sasuke at some point for sure. That's, I feel like, probably the most relevant thing they could do with Sakura, since they're not going to really have her fighting, it seems like. So that could be really good for them to have that conversation. But all in all, yeah, really good chapter again. Chapter 24 and 25 continue to streak. No misses for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex yet. Let's see what happens in chapter 26 next month. But for the meantime, that is going to wrap up this one. Let me know what you thought of everything in the comments below. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you guys are new. And as always, I hope you guys have a good day or night whenever you guys are watching this video. I'm Rewinds, and I'm out.